Mahabharata, Chapter 16, The Pandavas Conquer the World. Read by Nirvan Bajaj and Equir Bajaj. Mahabharata, Chapter 16, The Pandavas Conquer the World. Rajasooya continued. When Krishna heard that Yudhishthira wanted to meet him, O monarch, he went to Indraprastha, eager to meet the son of Kunti. Yudhishthira and Bhima welcomed him. Krishna then visited his father's sister Kunti. Afterwards, accepting the salutations of the twins, he spent some pleasant hours in the company of his friend Arjun. Then, as he rested in his apartment, Yudhishthira approached him and told him of his intentions. He said, I wish to perform the Rajasooya Yajna, but it cannot be done by mere wishings. He alone can perform it, who is omnipotent, who commands respect everywhere, and who is the master of all. All my friends say that I should perform the Rajasooya. But O Krishna, some, through their very affection, fail to see my shortcomings. Others give encouragement for selfish reasons. But you, Krishna, are beyond such motives. It is for you to tell me what could be done by me and what I should do. Krishna said, O great king, you have all the qualities of an emperor and you deserve to rule the Kshatriyas. But I perceive that you will not accomplish the Rajasooya as long as the mighty Jarasandha is alive. By the grace of Shiva, he has acquired immense strength and he has vanquished and imprisoned many kings to fulfill his vow of slaying them in sacrifice. We too had to flee Mathura for fear of him and go to Dwarka. He has captured 86 kings and needs 14 more to start his cruel sacrifice. One who foils him in this act will triumph over as the emperor of the Kshatriyas. If you intend to perform the Rajasooya, you must bring about Jarasandha's death and set free the kings imprisoned in his fort. Yudhishthira said, O unassailable hero, your might is my refuge. When you express doubts yourself, how can I be strong enough to face him? Then Bhima said, Krishna knows the strategy. I possess the strength and Arjun the will to win. Like the threefold sacrificial fire, we shall achieve our goal in subduing Jarasandha. Yudhishthira replied, when the great Yama himself is no match for Jarasandha and his ferocious army, how will you fare with your efforts? How can I send you, O Krishna, to Jarasandha merely because I covet the status of an emperor? Life without you three is meaningless for me. I would be bereft of dharma, artha and kama. If Bhima and Arjuna are my eyes, you verily are my mind. How shall I survive without my eyes and my mind? The Rajasooya Yajna appears ill-omened. It forebodes disaster. It oppresses my mind. I think we should not perform this Yajna. Then Arjun replied, I placed faith and strength in valor. Of what is worth is it to be born in a race famed for its valor, if one is devoid of it. The valorous one can quell his foes with his valor alone. He who is devoid of valor gains nothing, even if he has many other assets. We could do nothing better than slay Jarasandha and rescue the kings rotting in his prison while at the same time preparing for the Rajasooya. Our failure even to make an attempt will make us look incompetent as Kshatriyas. When we have much to gain, O king, how can you remain inactive? Then Krishna said, Arjun has revealed himself as one born in the race of Bharat, as one born to Kunti. We know not when death will claim us, nor have we heard of anyone escaping death by avoiding strife. This, therefore, is what men ought to do for their own satisfaction. Confront their foes bravely without violating the Shastras. If we are slain in battle, we shall ascend to heaven, as our goal is the protection of kings, our kinsmen. Even the Devas and Asuras cannot overcome Jarasandha in battle. but I see his destruction as imminent, and I think he should be vanquished in single combat with bare hands. I have the strategy, Bhima the strength, and Arjun the will to win. If we three approach him in private, he will certainly agree to a duel with us, and prompted by vanity, he will choose Bhima, who can send him to his death. If you know my mind and if you placed your faith in me, then untrust them to me. Beholding the brightened faces of Bhima and Arjun, Yudhishthira said, O Krishna, pray do not speak thus. You are the Lord of the Pandavas. You are our support, and what you say is right. Now that I have your guidance, I can clearly foresee the death of Jarasandha, the release of the kings, and the completion of the Rajasooya. O best of men, do all that is needed to complete the task undeterred. Thus addressed by Yudhishthira, O monarch, the three set out for Magadha, dressed as Brahmins who had learnt the Vedas. Setting out from the Kuru kingdom, they crossed the Kalakuta mountain as well as several rivers. They went onward to Mithila, crossed the Ganga, and Shona wending their way eastward till they entered the kingdom of Magadha. Arriving at the hills of Goratha, they saw the capital of Magadha, a wealthy city with perennial water supply, well-equipped houses, and happy citizens. And Krishna exclaimed, Behold, Arjun, Giriviraja, the capital of Magadha, guarded by that chain of 5 hills. The three heroes approached the city, but instead of entering it by the city gates, they went up to the massive and venerable mountain peak Chaitakyaka, attacked it, and razed it into the ground. And elated, they entered the city. As they walked up the royal road, they forcibly took for themselves some flower garlands from a vendor. Meanwhile, the Brahmins of the city went to Jarasandha and reported to him the evil omens which they had perceived. The king thereupon started sacrificial rituals to ward off any evil. Then the three heroes, attired in colorful robes and anointed with sandal paste and decked with flower garlands, marched into the abode of Jarasandha. And making their way through the 3 crowded gateways of the sacrificial enclosure, the fearless and proud ones approached Jarasandha. The king stood up, and perceiving them with befitting honor, he said, I welcome you. While Bhima and Arjun stood silently as the tall Jarasandha towered over, Krishna said, These two will speak to you only after midnight, as they are bound by a vow. The king, O monarch, then installed his guards in the sacrificial apartments and retired to his own chambers. Though intrigued by the attire of his guests, the king visited him after midnight and waited on them respectfully. Then they all said to him, Fare you well. As Krishna and Arjun exchanged glances, Jarasandha said, Be seated. Sandal paste garlands and this attire of yours are not usual for Brahmins who have learned the Vedas. Who are you, adorned with garlands and yet bearing the marks of the bowstring? Krishna replied in a grave yet soft voice. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas like Brahmins are competent to keep the vows of Snatak. You may therefore take use to be Brahmins who have learned the Vedas. Some of the Snataks observe general vows, some special. Kshatriyas who keep the special vow attain prosperity. Jarasandha said, Your entry over the raised Chaitakya hill is an act of reckless trespass. Then you introduce yourselves as Brahmins, though you bear the marks of Kshatriya vigor. Why are you reluctant to accept the worship offered by me? Why are you here? Krishna replied, Brave men enter the abode of an enemy through an irregular gate, and that of a friend by the regular gate. We have entered the abode of our enemy with a purpose. Therefore, we do not accept the worship. Jarasandha said, Even after much thought, I cannot recall any harm done to you by me. When I am innocent and you have not hurt you, how do I become your enemy? Krishna replied, You have imprisoned many Kshatriyas. Having committed such atrocities, how do you call yourself innocent? Jarasandha countered, I have imprisoned none who have not been vanquished by me in battle. Is there a king here not defeated by me? To subdue the enemy by valor is mortal for a Kshatriya. Krishna said, but you want to slay them by the altar of Shiva. You debase those of your own race as animals fit for slaughter. O king, we seek fight with you, and we are not Brahmins. I am Krishna, and these two are the sons of Pandu. Either you set free all the kings, or you proceed to the domain of death. Jarasandha said, I have gathered all those kings as sacrificial offerings, keeping in mind Kshatriya morality. How can I release them for fear of you? Krishna said, O king, we have come here to slay you for the harm you have done to Kshatriya race. Jarasandha said, I shall fight. Is it to be single combat with each of you, or a battle between our armies in array? Or am I to fight the three of you, or the two of you? Then Krishna said, O king, whom will you choose for single combat from among us? Who among us should prepare himself for it? Then he said to Bhima, I will fight with you. It is better to go down fighting a full man. Jarasandha removed his crown, O monarch, and recalling his Kshatriya dharma, stood ready for the encounter. Then, O monarch, Jarasandha rushed at Bhima, who, advised and blessed by Krishna, was ready for the fight. The two mighty heroes, with nothing but their bare hands for weapons, stood facing each other, vigorous and eager. They fell upon each other and tried to drag each other down. They engaged in different holes and tried to different locks, and fiery sparks flew off their foreheads as they dashed against each other. Gripping the other's waist, each would hit out his foot. With clenched fists, they aimed their blows at one limb, while it actually fell on another unguarded. Each tried to crush the skull of the other with the prowess of his hands. The sounds of the wrestlers made while slapping the arms and while hitting out each other's chests and while drawing in their breaths to bring each other down were loud like the roar of thunder or of crumbling cliffs, and the citizens, men and women of diverse stations, thronged the place to witness the spectacle. Each combatant of O monarch tried to cause his opponent to collapse in exhaustion or trip him. They were both men of immense strength, and they delighted in testing it. Each one was anxious for a quick victory, and they looked for a vulnerable point in his rival. It was a terrible fight, O monarch. The combat commenced on the 14th, first lunar day of the month of Kartik, and continued to the 13th. Then, on the 14th day, perceiving Jarasandha falling behind in fatigue, Krishna reminded Bhima, saying, an exhausted foe is not to be pressed hard. He might even lose his life. Therefore, do not be hard on him. Fight him if you will, but matching his reduced might. Bhima understood that the time had come for Jarasandha's death and said, this wretch who dared me is not to be spared. Krishna, keen to hasten the death of Jarasandha, replied, bring forth and display before Jarasandha the awesome form of yours, which you have inherited from Vayu. Thereupon, Bhima lifted up Jarasandha, and holding him aloft, began whirling him. And having whirled him 100 times, he threw him down. Then, pressing his knee against his fallen foe, broke his back and tore his body in two. The triumphant roar of Bhima and the dying shriek of Jarasandha mingled into the terrible sound that struck terror in the hearts of all citizens of Magad. Then Krishna brought forth the chariot of Jarasandha, and ascending it with Bhima and Arjuna, went and set free the imprisoned kings. And they said, it is not surprising that our deliverance has been at your hands with the assistance of Bhima and Arjuna. We bow down to you. Command us and we shall carry out your bidding. Then Krishna said, King Yudhishthira is planning to perform the Rajasooya. Assist him in the endeavor to be emperor. All those kings, O monarch, joyously concurred and said, so be it. When they arrived at Indraprastha, Krishna joyfully said to Yudhishthira, O king, by good fortune Bhima has slain Jarasandha and the imprisoned kings are set free. By good fortune, Bhima and Arjuna have returned unharmed. Yudhishthira worshipped Krishna and embraced Bhima and Arjuna. And then, O monarch, together with his brothers, received each king with warm hospitality and sent them back to their kingdoms with befitting honors. Then, taking leave of Kunti, Draupadi and the Pandava brothers, Krishna, ascending the chariot given by Yudhishthira, proceeded to Dwarka. Then Arjun, who had acquired the excellent Gandiva bow, the ever-full quiver and the chariot and the palace hall, said to Yudhishthira, I think that now our treasury needs to be augmented. I wish to proceed northwards to extract tributes. Yudhishthira said, Go forth. After due propitiations, victory will be yours. Arjun then set out on his miraculous chariot given by Agni. A vast army went with him. Similarly, Bhima and the twins also set out on their mission of conquest. And, O monarch, Arjun subjugated the north, Bhima the east, Sahadev the south, and Nakul the west. And under the just rule of Yudhishthira, even cheat and thieves and spoke no lies. And trade, agriculture, and cattle wealth prospered. Political stability prevailed. Kings approached him either with respect or in friendship, but never in discord. And his treasury was filled with such bounty as to last 100 of years. And Yudhishthira, after assessing the means at his disposal, decided to perform the Rajasooya Yajna. And thus ends the 16th session of our rendering of Veshampan's recital of Vyasa's immortal Ithihasa, the Mahabharata. Stay tuned for the next chapter, which is Mahabharata chapter 17, and it is called Yudhishthira's Rajasooya Yajna. Please subscribe to this channel, like, share and comment on this video. Thank you and Namaste.